Something that's been on my mind recently is this idea of little tasks versus big tasks, right? And a lot of times we put off the big tasks. We have no issue with the little tasks. Well, what is the difference between a big task and a little task? Well, I'll tell you. It has nothing to do with the task and it has everything to do with the emotional weight that you give to the task. For one person, a sock on the ground for a week might be a small task, and for somebody else, it might be a Herculean task, the hardest thing to do. It matters not because of what the task is, but because of what it means to you. And what we know about procrastination is that it's not laziness, it's not discipline, it's not willpower that's the issue. It's emotional avoidance. The harder something is to feel, the more uncomfortable it is to feel, the easier it is to just distract yourself until you don't feel that thing anymore. It's the same thing as I'm driving and then I see something in the road and I swerve to avoid it. My instinct is to protect me from danger, to protect me from hitting that thing in the road. And so my brain acts without checking with me to see if it's okay. You like the live stream quality? Thank you. It's just an external camera and TikTok Live Studio. It's not anything complicated, but I'm glad you like it. So, I just joined 1 minute and 53 seconds ago. I would love if I could have this, if I could help as many people as I can today. Generally, the easiest way to do that is right at the beginning of the stream to ask everyone in here to do all the algorithm things. So if you could please like and share, and my favorite, if you could drop a comment. Maybe tell me what you've been stuck on lately. What's that dark cloud that's following you around? Maybe it's that you're frustrated. You can't seem to keep any promises that you make to yourself. Maybe you can't seem to keep those promises to others. I don't know. What are you stuck on? Sometimes it's just starting that's the issue. Sometimes it's just finishing that's the issue. But what you should know is that procrastination is never an issue of willpower. It's always an issue of emotional avoidance. And if you're avoiding something, ask yourself the question, what feeling am I protecting myself from right now? If I avoid doing this thing, what does that keep me from feeling? Shame can be kind of its own habit loop. Every habit has a cue, a behavior, and a reward. These three things are an integral part of your life, whether you realize it or not. When I walk into a dark room, that's my cue that, I can't see, so I should probably flip the light switch. And then when I flip the light switch, the reward is now I can see. The cue, the habit, and the reward. And so what's your cue when you get bored? You pick up your phone, you start scrolling, right? What's your habit when you get overwhelmed? When you feel guilty? When you feel like you're not doing enough? When you feel shame? When you feel overwhelmed? When you feel anxiety? What does that signal? What behavior is that queuing up for you to do? The cue, the behavior, and then the reward. If you can identify what are the cues and then what are the rewards, it'll make it a lot easier to change some of those behaviors. Now, a lot of people, they try and just white knuckle it, force themselves. I'm just going to try harder next time. Or I'm just going to block all of my apps. Or I'm just going to, I don't know. Honestly, when you try and solve procrastination by fixing the coping mechanism, by fixing, the thing that you use to procrastinate, it rarely works. Because if I threw your phone away out today, you'd probably still procrastinate. You'd just use something else, right? If I, blocked TikTok, you'd just go over to another app. It's because the problem is not the phone or the TV or taking naps or whatever it is that you use to procrastinate. I mean, think about it. How many times have you used work to procrastinate? A lower intensity, job where I'm like, I have to clean my desk before I start this, or I have to work on this part of the project before I do this part. It's all about avoiding something that you don't want to feel. And of course, what you resist persists. And you know this logically, but this isn't a logical problem. This is an emotional problem. Okay, so how do we fix an emotional problem? With an emotional solution. Now, if you want to change behavior, you need to recognize that there's one truism, one truth, that behavior that is rewarded is repeated. And every time you do the right thing, it needs to feel like the right thing. But it doesn't always feel like the right thing. And that's confusing. So take, for example, you're in school. You know you're supposed to study for the test, right? You study for the test, and then you get a bad grade. What does that teach you? Studying doesn't matter. Or you don't study, and then you get a good enough grade. What does that teach you? Studying doesn't matter. So then it's time for an even bigger test. And now your brain has all this sort of noisy information of, does studying matter? I don't know. It's uncomfortable and there's no guarantee of a reward. So why should I bother? Why should I do something uncomfortable when there's no guarantee of a reward? What an interesting question. Why should I do something if there's nothing in it for me? If you don't have a good answer to that question, you're probably not going to be very motivated to do the thing. All right, if you just joined, welcome. I'm Jordan, the Procrastination Coach. My job is to help all of us to understand that procrastination is not an issue of laziness or a lack of willpower or discipline. Nothing could be further from the truth. What's happening is it's a defense mechanism. When you feel uncomfortable, which means bored, overwhelmed, ashamed, guilty, whatever it is, if you are uncomfortable feeling that thing, the easiest way to solve that uncomfortable feeling is to distract yourself and avoid it. If I can't feel anything, then I can't feel bad. And so things like doom scrolling and video games, or even something like taking a shower or a nap, these are things that become really attractive to us the moment that we get uncomfortable. So like, think about what leads to the moment that you pick up your phone. What leads to that moment? What's the cue that triggers you to pick up the phone? If you can identify that, usually at the root of whatever it is, there's something that made you feel something that was uncomfortable. Sometimes it's as simple as boredom. Sometimes it's as complex as trauma, shame, guilt, anxiety, overwhelm, fear. What if I answer this email? What if there's bad news inside? Better procrastinate and avoid answering it or looking at it, right? What if I send this text and then, it makes somebody upset, or I don't know what to say, or they don't think that I'm cool and I get rejected or whatever? Okay, easier to just not send it. And so we put these things off. And it doesn't even matter why you put it off in the first place, but often the longer you put it off, the more ashamed you are of how long you've put it off. And now the shame becomes the primary driver of your procrastination. All right, let me jump into the comments here, see if I can answer some questions. Hello, Jillian. Baker says, all right, fair enough, but I do everything there is to do out of discipline, but my ADHD is just so bad. I'm in need of medication at this point. Well, first of all, medication can be very helpful with folks with ADHD. Also, behavioral interventions, which is what I teach, can also be very effective. So let's go over a few. Forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do is not a great long-term strategy. Do you really think you're going to be successful for the next 365 days forcing yourself to do something that you don't want to do? Probably not. What if instead you gave yourself proof that doing the thing mattered, that there was a reward at the end and it was in your best interest to do it? Folks with ADHD really thrive when there's feedback loops that are quick and they're meaningful. And video games are a great example of this. A lot of people with ADHD, shiny object syndrome, the most easily distracted folks, you put a great movie in front of them or a great video game and their attention is locked, because what they are looking for is proof that spending energy in this moment matters, that it's going to make a difference. And if you don't have proof that spending energy is getting you closer towards what you care about, then you quickly get bored and you move towards something that does give you that proof. So if you've got ADHD, or if you don't, these are really sort of the same situation, then you need to find ways to convince yourself to reparent yourself and prove that doing specific behaviors matters. I've talked about rewards. Well, look at the thing that you're not doing and then ask yourself, if I were to do this right now, what is the short-term reward? I'm not talking about the long term. Like exercise, right? This is a great example. Like if I were to exercise right now, what would happen in the short term? Nothing. I'd be tired, sweaty, uncomfortable. I got no proof that it has made any difference. I look the same in the mirror. The scale shows me the same number. It's very easy to get frustrated when the short-term reward is not meaningful to you. Strong dad. This algorithm calling me out. Art King says, if it's boredom, what's the solution? Well, define boredom. What makes you bored? I can guess. Generally, boredom is doing something where you're not really getting any feedback, or the feedback is inconclusive, or it doesn't mean anything to you. It's like, why should I bother, right? What's in this for me? So if I ask you to do, 5 push-ups right now, it's like, why? What's the point? If I ask you to study for a half an hour, it's like, why? What's the point? Right? But if I all of a sudden offered you $1,000 for every 5 minutes you spent doing it, all of a sudden it's not boring at all anymore, because there's a clear incentive, there's clear feedback, there's meaning behind it. And so the issue with boredom is that there is not a connection between the act and the meaning. And so it's like, I'm doing this, I'm bored, what's the point? When am I ever gonna need to do this? How does this benefit me at all? Jillian says housework is boring for me. Yeah. You know what happens after you do the dishes? You wait a day and there's more dishes. It's like, what's the reward? And so when I teach behavior change, it's all about finding rewards that matter. Now, generally, the first thing people think about with rewards is, I'm going to give myself a candy bar. I'm going to give myself a vacation or more screen time, some sort of material reward. And material rewards generally they're not very effective. It's too easy to cheat, and often it feels more like a consequence. I can just take the candy bar and not do the task. So in order to prevent this from happening, we have to use what's called an intrinsic reward, or what I like to call emotional rewards. So here's an example. Imagine you finished the toughest project you've ever worked on. You're exhausted. You almost gave up halfway through. You sit down, and then in the door walks your favorite childhood teacher, mentor, coach, somebody who you really admire. And they tell you, hey, I'm so proud of you. You crushed it. And I want you to be just the most proud of yourself in this moment, because you deserve it. In that moment, you feel amazing, right? And that's very different than a reward of a candy bar or more screen time or even more money. You're feeling proud of a job well done. You feel like what you did mattered. And what's missing from so many of the things that you procrastinate on is the feeling that if I do it, it will matter. And if the task is too scary, then you're not going to do it. If there's scary task and there's no reward, why would you ever do this? And sometimes if it's really scary and there is a reward, but it's not quite meaningful enough to overcome how scary it is, then you're still not going to do it. So we have to find a way not just to add reward, but also to make it a little bit less scary. And these are the two forces that are pushing on you when it comes to procrastination. It appears like, this is boring. Well, if you want to do something, strategy 1 is force myself to do something boring, which is pretty inconsistent in terms of the results. Strategy number 2 is find a way to prove to me that this actually isn't boring and there's something in it for me. So like reading a book might be boring for one person, but what would make reading a book not boring? What if you had a guarantee of every time you read a book that you would get +1 intelligence, like in a video game? People will level up their characters, grind and grind to raise their stats because they have proof that it matters. But in real life, we struggle with the grind because we don't have any feedback. We don't have any proof that what we're doing is making a difference, and so it feels like a waste of time. All right, getting back into the questions here. Isn't the consequences a negative reward? James says, talking about consequences, generally consequences can be effective. I don't teach them in my practice or in my community because there's a lot of side effects that people don't realize, and it's really hard to use this as a strategy on yourself. Like, am I really going to give myself consequences? I think that instead of focusing on doing this because of fear and manipulation and accountability and deadlines, like if you hold a gun to my head, I'll probably do it, but I'm only going to do the bare minimum enough to ensure my safety. Ooh, thank you for the heart. I'm only going to do the bare minimum, do just enough to avoid whatever the penalty or the punishment is. Whereas if you're doing it for what's in it for you, there's extra ceiling. Like, oh, the more I do this, the better it is for me, rather than I'm doing this to, avoid some sort of pain or punishment. All right, back into the questions. The lovely one, why isn't commission sales appealing to me? You don't earn money until you make sales. Yeah, that's a good point. That's why, it's supposed to be this idea of, look, here's proof that there's something in it for you. It depends on a number of reasons, so I can't just quickly diagnose and say, it's just this. But a good place to start is by avoiding commission sales. What feeling are you protecting yourself from? A good guess might be, I'm protecting myself from feeling like a failure, from feeling rejected, from feeling like I'm bad at sales. I might take it personally every time that I have a sales call and it doesn't go well. And you can protect yourself from this feeling if you never talk to anybody, if you never try and make the sale. That's my first instinct. All right, Karen says, 66 ADHD and depression feeds my procrastination. That makes a lot of sense. It's very common. And what you should know is that there are solutions to this. Unfortunately, so much of the productivity content that's in the world is very focused on pain, guilt, shame, manipulation, fear. They try and say that you just have to force yourself. You have to be more disciplined and have more willpower. And I have not found any of those strategies to be effective. So if this resonates with you, you're in the right place. OR says, besides procrastination, I tend to sabotage myself all the time. Well, that seems like it could be very related. Why do we self-sabotage? What are we trying to protect ourselves from? We're afraid that if we get to a certain level that we can't handle it, that it'll be overwhelming, that it'll bring some feeling that we can't handle. I've self-sabotaged before. A lot of times it looks like perfectionism. You keep coming up with excuses of what I need to do because you're so afraid of making a mistake. What if people find out that I'm actually an imposter, that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm not good at what I said that I was going to do? I know, I hear you. Food will come soon. The cats. All right, more questions. Let's see. Art King. I feel like it matters. Sometimes I just lose focus, and before you know it, time passes. What makes you lose focus? That's a good place to start. Or what would make you be focused? Look at the areas of your life where you have no issues with procrastination, where you're excited and interested to do these things. What do they all have in common? My guess for all of you is that you can predict reliably that if I do it, there will be a reward, that there's something in it for me. If there's a prediction that it's going to go well, then I am motivated. And if there's a prediction that it's not going to go well, then I avoid it. Donat, so can you summarize 5 to 10 steps how to defeat procrastination? Of course I can. Let's see how I do. All right. Step 1, recognize that it is not completely your fault. This is an automatic behavior that your brain swerves to avoid something that it sees as dangerous. Number 2, stop using consequences and start using rewards. When you can prove that there's something in it for you, if you take action, you become motivated. And trying to force yourself to do things is possible, but it's not very sustainable. Number 3, the kind of reward that you give yourself matters. Material rewards generally don't work. I can just take the candy bar without doing the task. And so what works better is an intrinsic reward, is being proud of yourself, is proving that you're getting closer to the finish line. Number 4, if you want to give yourself a reward, the best way to do it is to connect the behavior and the praise that you're giving yourself to your identity, to who you are. So for example, if you just finished reading a book, you could say something like, this is proof that I'm a reader. And that the more that I read, the smarter I'm going to be. And the more I'm going to be able to help other people because I'm learning. I think that's 4 good steps. I don't know what number 5 would be. Number 5 would be that you need to treat life like an experiment. So many of us, we try to do one new strategy that we're really excited about, and then when we try it and it doesn't go perfectly, we get so discouraged that we just give up entirely. Because it feels bad when your experiment fails. However, the real goal of an experiment is not to be successful, it's to learn something. The more you learn, the easier it's going to be for you to repeat success, for you to learn, grow, and achieve more than you ever thought you were capable of. So, finding ways to build in flexibility, to give yourself permission to be imperfect. This is the key to sustainable behavior change. Because anybody can be successful once, but to be successful over a long period of time, it takes a lot of resilience, patience, and permission to be imperfect. A good way to do this is, instead of grading yourself by the hour or by the day, is to grade yourself by the week or by the month. You don't have to be productive every moment of every day to call the week a success. All right, that was a lot of stuff. Hopefully that was helpful, donut. I'm spread so thin in half-finished projects, James says. That is certainly relatable. Why do you think that you get halfway and then you don't finish? If you finished, what would that expose you to? What's the feeling that you're avoiding? Blu-ray says, have I mastered procrastination? I know a lot about how to help myself with procrastination. I know a lot about how to help others with procrastination. I'm wary of saying that I'm a master of anything because I think there's always more to learn. I think my cat is puking. I might have to hop off and figure that out. Okay, my friends. I want to do a quick shout out before I go check on my cat. If you're here, it's because what I'm talking about is resonating with you. And I want you to know that procrastination is solvable. However, listening to me talk and getting caught in the consuming self-help stuff, consuming self-help content, it can be sort of procrastination of its own. Because if you do try to solve procrastination, there's a risk that it might not go perfectly. And your brain is afraid of this. So it's easier to just stay in the consuming content range. I like to think about this as learning how to ride a bike by only reading books and watching videos about it. At some point, you have to get on the bike, right? And the easiest way to do this is by having a community of people who are also learning how to ride a bike, who are engaged and care about whether or not you achieve success. And so I want to give a shout out to my community, which is called the Proof Lab. Now, what I talk about in these live streams in my videos is really helpful. These are the strategies that work. However, it doesn't really help you to learn about them if you never actually try them. You have to get on the bike. And once you get on the bike, it's probably not going to go perfectly the first time. We have to build resilience capacity, emotional resilience, the ability to get back up on the bike once you fall over. And it can be really hard to do this on your own. Procrastination has a lot of shame surrounding it. We often don't tell the people close to us even about how dark that rain cloud is that keeps following us everywhere, all the promises that we're not keeping to ourselves and others. There's so much shame involved in procrastination, and having a dedicated community full of people who care about you and who are invested, and an expert like me, is something that I would think that everyone would benefit from. So if this is something that interests you, I have a community call twice a week. One of them is in 22 minutes from now. On Tuesday nights and on Friday afternoons, we go live and we have amazing community calls where we get together and we help each other. We support each other. We get involved in each other's problems and we figure out what's the next step. There's no judgment here. There's no competition to see who can be the most productive. It's a really amazing place. It's called the Proof Lab. And if you're interested, you can hop over to my profile. You can click on my face and there should be a link right at the top of the page. There's a 7-day free trial. I'd love to see you at our call in 20 minutes. It's only $25 a month after that. And I have to tell you, the Proof Lab is something that is my passion project. I'm obsessed with the idea of being the person who I needed when I was younger, and I used to struggle with procrastination. It used to run my life. I would structure every behavior, every choice around all of the things that I was trying to juggle about, how behind am I on this, and which person is mad at me because I haven't gotten back to them, and all these things that I would have to sort of juggle, trying to keep all the plates spinning, trying to stay afloat. Okay. I gotta go. You like the upgrade? Yeah, it used to be more grainy. It's actually not a camera upgrade. It was a computer upgrade. So I needed a computer upgrade significantly. Anyway, thanks for sticking around, everybody. I gotta go check out my cat, who I think just puked. And then I got 20 minutes, and I'm joining Proof Lab live. So thanks for sticking around, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.